Hi, welcome to another video. This is Mr. Chow from EnglishTuition.org. Now in today's video, I'm just going to go through 4 simple tips to boost your sentence synthesis scores, because I believe this is a very tricky and maybe even challenging component for a lot of students, because they find that it's just so easy to lose marks. Even after months of practice, they find that they still struggle sometimes to keep a consistent score for the sentence synthesis component. Now, the very first tip that I have for you is to always check your pronouns, right? Simple pronouns, because the simpler something is, the easier it is to overlook that aspect, right? For example, take note of the genders, right? If you have a name that says Bala, right, then don't use a pronoun that says she, right? Because then you would have made a mistake, and if the examiner is being very strict about it, then you might just be marked down for using the wrong gender pronoun for the particular question. Now, second tip that I have for you is always check your answers. Now, some schools advocate that the students actually use a more systematic approach, which is what I recommend as well. When the students have completed the answers, but using that systematic checks, they are able to go back and check their answers to make sure that they don't make any silly or careless mistakes, which could be very costly in terms of marks. So for example, a student might at the very minimum be able to go back and check the subject-verb-agreement. That means checking the tenses and making sure that the subject agrees with the verb. They might also want to decide to check on the spelling as well as the punctuation. So these very basic checks ensure that the tiny mistakes do not creep in, because any minor mistake might just cost the student 2 marks for each question. Remember, sentence synthesis, there are only 5 questions in that component itself. So if there's a little mistake here, little mistake there, it's very easy to add up to like 6 or even 8 marks. So then the student scores like 2 upon 10 for the sentence synthesis component, which is not ideal. And it's not a matter of lack of practice, because many students, by the time they get to the PSLE, they have already spent P3, P4, P5, P6, 4 years, right, doing a lot of sentence synthesis practices. And it's just that during the important exam itself, they make a little bit of careless mistakes here and there, and that's when it costs them very heavily. Okay, the next tip that I have for you is to revise on your connectors, right? Now, connectors itself is a very huge topic, and in fact, it's the essence of what sentence synthesis is all about, because we are trying to combine different sentences together. Now, for certain connectors, they are just one single word, right? For example, we have and, but, yet, because, only one word. So those are simpler connectors, and most students are able to handle that. But there are some connectors that come with multiple words. So go back and revise, connectors like prefer to, rather than. So these connectors come with pairs, and if students forget the word that goes with the other word, then they may not be able to come up with the correct answers. Maybe because they have forgotten about the connectors. So instead of using prefer to, they start to use connectors like prefer than or prefer that, and then that's when they make the mistake, and that will cost them the 2 marks for the question. And the last tip that I have for you is to revise your grammar rules, especially for challenging topics. So what do I mean by challenging topics? Revise the word forms. This is a very tricky topic that students always tend to struggle with, because when we try to change verbs to nouns, adjective to nouns, that type of thing, it's going to be challenging to get a correct answer. And if students are held back simply because of not being able to change the word forms correctly, then it is harder for them to score full marks for this particular component, because sometimes there just might be 1 or 2 questions that require students to change word forms. Reported speech is another challenging topic for a lot of students, because there are just so many rules to remember, right? They have to remember to change present tense to past tense to past participle. They have to remember to change the time words. They have to remember to change the place words. Sometimes, during the exam, they feel nervous. They just did not manage or could not remember, right, to change all the words, and that could cost them some marks. And then another challenging topic active to passive voice. Challenging for some students, right? Because I think that the topic itself, active to passive voice, is manageable, right? But still, some students tend to make mistakes. They forget to add certain words when they change from the active voice to the passive voice, right? So go back, revise the grammar rules, okay, for these topics. Make sure that you just flip through your sentence synthesis assessment books, okay, your worksheets. For my students, they have their own specific set of revision worksheets on sentence synthesis itself. So if you're not attending any tuition lessons outside, then just go back to your assessment books, right? Check the different topics, see which topics are the more challenging ones, which topics require the students to remember more rules. Go back and revise and try to be more familiar with those rules, and then they stand to do well in the sentence synthesis component. Alright, that's all I have in this short little video. Hopefully you have started your revision by now, because I think it's not too early to start. The PSLE is just around the corner, which takes place in near the end of September. So now it's already end of June as I make this video. So we have July, August, September, and that's it. Alright, so I wish you the best of luck, and if you'd like to see future videos just like this one, remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will talk to you soon in the next video.